This is JD. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to look at the AEROFLY Flight Simulator version 4. So here's the general menu setup for the flight simulator. On the left hand side you've got control settings, about, add-ons, and exit. In the right hand side, as you can see, you've got the start menu, career, missions, aircraft, location, nav, and conditions. So I've had this simulator for a very short period of time and I've been able to figure this out. Under controls, you've got essential controls for actually flying the aircraft with ailerons down to the autopilot master. And then you have under general, you've got the specific controls of an airplane. Again, the throttle down to the flaps, and then you've got gear, wheel, brakes, and other things. So I've assigned that, a lot of these controls, to my CH product yoke. As you can see, I've got a very nice old yoke here. And this allows me to do the ailerons, for example, for banking, and the rudder. I have the rudder assigned to my throttle that I have on my left-hand side, and that's a CH product as well. It's the Pro Throttle USB, and that gives me the throttle. Plus, I've got a lot of other buttons on that throttle that allow me to parking brake and wheel brakes, and I've got something that I think is absolutely necessary, and that's the reverse thrust when you land these aircraft. So, and then in this you've got helicopter, same sort of thing for that, and you've got the simulation, right from pausing the simulator to the HUD to moving maps. Good to have the map up when you're flying sometimes. So you've got that, and then under the navigation you've got setups for the navigation, as well as a bunch of hot buttons you're going to need, and the autopilot hot buttons here as well. And then you've got the views. So for me, I've got a joystick here that I'm going to bring up in 1 second and show you what the views look like. Alright, if you look up in the corner there, you can see that I've got a throttle here active. And this throttle, as I press the buttons, you can see where my views are. If I hit this switch here in the back, that gives me the external view, and it cycles through the external view. And if I hit the front part of that switch here, it's button 1, gives me the internal view here. This stick here actually gives me the rudder control, so it's not in the views. I can pan up and down. Let me just go down to the bottom here for a second. And if you look at that, button 11, you get move up and move down. So when you're sitting in the cockpit, that allows you to go up and down in the cockpit, so you can see more out the window, or go down and actually see the aircraft controls better. And then you can move. I got move right and move left, and that'll kind of center you in the middle of the controls. So, and I just hit something with my watch. So let's move this back a bit. So that's under views, and like I said before, under the aircraft, if I go down here, I've got 3 buttons on the side. There's the buttons there, 1, 2, and 3. This third button here gives me what does that give me? There we go, reverse thrust. So when you're landing, that's pretty friggin' handy. And then I've got the brakes here. So I've got the parking brake here. I'll just set that parking brake before I take off. And I've got a wheel brake to stop me when I'm landing as well. So I'll wheel brake that. And then on my throttle, my yoke, I've got some buttons on the top of my yoke here that, they're generally put the gear down and flaps, cycle the flaps down by notches, and cycle the flaps back up again. So those are my general controls for the simulation. You've got autopilot controls here as well, and you've got the lights, sound, communication, navigation, and other things. So you can explore that yourself, and you can also do multi-engine. You can do a 4-engine jet, and then just have your controls assigned to these various items in each row. For the throttle 1 to 4 and reverse thrust and stuff like that, give you even more control of the aircraft and more multi-engine controls. And then you've got your input devices, and I said I have a CH Pro Throttle USB. That's what you're looking at over here on this side, and then a 3-axis USB yoke. So that's the yoke I have. I don't have a picture of the yoke, but it's a standard yoke that you would have for flying an aircraft. And there's a bunch of buttons on that yoke as well. And then if I go back here a bit, you've got a career tab now, and here you can identify your pilot, and they give you all kinds of achievements for your career. and you can look at your recent flights. And I took off at Seattle Seattle Airport. It was quick 4-minute flight, and then landed. This was a takeoff at Seattle. This one was Seattle to Whidbey Island, 14 minutes. Gives you some data. I believe I can set that flight over again. There we go. So if I click that, that's a recorded flight. So I can actually replay that flight if I want to. I can't say that was the best flight I ever made, but that's a flight. So that gives you a chance to look at those flights again. And then if you go back here, you get skill levels, and you're getting stars for what you do. And again, it's the very, very first shot at this particular simulator. Very good though. And then you've got the logbooks. You've got achievements. Fly 10 minutes, fly 1 hour. The more you fly, I guess the more achievements you get. I've got taxiing, landing successfully, first landing, all kinds of achievements. And I think if I click that, do I get anything? No, I don't. So that's just listing your achievements. And I've got the aircraft logbooks for the various aircraft. There we go. Takeoffs, landings, full flights, flight duration. This is good if you're actually a pilot and you want to try approaches. You can use this program to try approaches. I'm not sure how this would compare to X-Plane. I have X-Plane 12. This is just a heck of a lot faster to get in and out of. And it runs at really nice frame rates for older computers. Then you have a whack of missions here, and these are challenges that you have, and you can go through the various challenges here, and basically the ILS practice with a Baron 58. You click on the challenge and it sets you up, right? So you're already set up if you're in the air coming in for a landing. Then that's excellent. And then it's got recommended. I'm not sure how this recommends this to you, but like for example, the Q400, it's a de Havilland aircraft, actually built by Bombardier and then sold back to the de Havilland company. And there's an airline flight from Seattle to Spokane. And so you can load that up. It'll load up all of the flight management computer information you need to get from A to B. And then you've got the list of aircraft. There's more aircraft that are actually on this list because you also have the Concorde, and I don't think I can see a Concorde on this list at all. So I've gone through this, and there's 30 aircraft. So flights per aircraft, maybe those are the ones I've actually flown. And then schedule flights if you want to schedule a flight and actually go somewhere, like to JFK from Seattle. You can schedule that flight and hit fly now on the bottom, and away you go, right? So there are a lot of quick menus for you there, so that's good. And then if I go down to, that's the missions. There are the aircraft types. So I was flying a Learjet 45 before. If I use my wheel on my mouse, I can wheel back and forth to the various aircraft types. I don't need to tell you what these are. There's the Q400, beautiful aircraft. I've got it with the Air Canada markings on it. So it's the R-22 Robinson. And there we've got our Black Hawk, the UH-60M, Lufthansa, A320 aircraft, all these various aircraft. So I like flying a small 2-engine sometime, let's get to a small 2-engine, like the King Air C90 is nice to practice on if you want to learn how to fly these things. I don't particularly like to fly the really small Cessnas. And they've got, there's the Concorde I told you about. So they do have the Concorde in there. Air France, and the liveries change. So if I flip this, I can get the British Airways livery, and I can change liveries for any of these aircraft. So that's the CRJ from Bombardier, beautiful aircraft. And then if you want to do the old Snoopy, that's not the Sopwith Camel, maybe. So EC, it's Eurocopter 135, and then for some stunt flying, the extra 330. And I love the F-18, and you got the various colors of the F-18. There's a NASA coloring of the F-18, so, or livery as we call them. And some older aircraft, you can fly those as well. Is that the, what's this, the Junkmeister. Anyway, back to the Learjet for a second. So once you've selected an aircraft, you hit the back button. It's behind my head right now, you can see it, and then you've got your aircraft selected. So from a location perspective, it'll put you on the map. You can zoom out with your wheel, and when you zoom in, it'll sort of isolate that airport you're zooming into, as you just saw. So you zoom out like that, point your mouse to where you want to go, and zoom in, and you're going to get pretty close to where that airport is. left or right mouse will move that map around so you can figure out where you want to be. So if I wanted to choose an airport just by backing this up here, and I want to go to Portland, for example, let's just do this, and let's say I want to be this aircraft on the runway. I just click that like this, and now I'm on the runway, and this is exactly where it's I'm going to be when it shows the when I hit start. So right now I've got a Learjet. If I hit start, I'm in Portland on the end of that runway. Let's go back to location again. There's Portland, there's the runway. If I want to do some planning, some actual navigation, that's location. Let's do some navigation really quick. So I want to, this is my Seattle to Whidbey Island flight. So if I click origin like that, there's the where I'm coming from, and once I hit origin, I can hit my departure, and I look at my route, and this is Seattle 4. If I select a different route, it's going to wheel me around differently to get to my destination. I'd already picked the destination before. Let me select Seattle 4 because it's a more direct flight. That's my departure. If I go down to the bottom here, I look at destination, and I put in the destination, and that is Whidbey. So you would hit Whidbey here. So let me just hit Whidbey, W-H-I, Whid. How do you spell Whidbey? Hang on. W-H, there we go, Whidbey Island. So I hit Whidbey Island like that, and then I can pick the runway I want to land on. Let me just zoom in here so it's highlighting the runway. Now I'm coming directly in here, so probably runway 32 is the best one. That's probably 32. There we go. So you hit that, runway 32. That's more direct. I don't have to do too much circling of that airport. There's one waypoint here, and this is where I start to decrease my throttle and start my landing, my approach, right? So I've got my destination. I've got everything all set up here, and it'll plan that out for you. And then you have to you go back, and that's your destination. So let's just end this for a second, jump right into the aircraft. All right, I'm in the aircraft here, and let me just turn around and start this simulation. So we're initializing the simulation here. And we're in the aircraft. Of course, I'm sitting in the aircraft, but I'm facing the other way, if you've got a sense of humor. So here we are in the aircraft, and as I said, the frame rates in this are excellent. So if I just use my mouse to look around, right, I've got my various displays in the aircraft. I'm not going to go through all the controls of one of these simulators or an aircraft, but you've got your autopilot up here, and you've got some of your screens here for displaying the essentials for flying, and then you've got some engine and some various areas of the aircraft, like the flaps and the ailerons and the settings of those at a particular time. And then if you go down, I should speak better English here. If you go down here, you've got things like if I reach over to my grip here, I can hit, see what that does. There we go. That's my reverse thrust. You can hear that working right now. Let me just put my parking brake on. That's my parking brake. So if I hit, that's my reverse thrust. And then if you watch up here, there's my toe brake. So if I toe brake that, let me see if I can go down. Let me just go down into the cockpit here. So I'm lowering myself into the cockpit and get the right angle to see the actual toe brake work. So I'll disengage my parking brake, and then I'll hit the brake here, watch the pedal here, and there we go. I'm toe braking the aircraft. So let me just engage that again, and it takes that toe brake off. And as you can see, my yoke is working left, right, and I'm just pitching up and down here with my yoke, and I've got some various buttons in my yoke that are mapped here to this aircraft. And there's all of this aircraft is simulating the actual Learjet, like 100% here. So every button on this aircraft works. I've got a centering button on my yoke. I just have to hit center, and it pops up like that. And of course, like I said before, you have to set buttons on your throttle. I have this button here, if you look on the right hand side, set. So if I go down, I'm like this. If I go up, like this. If I want to slide left or right in the cockpit, I can do that. So I like to be around here so I can see some of the displays that are available for flying. So on takeoff, I would want to make sure that I've got my brake on before I throttle up here, and then I take my brake off and then throttle up, so I don't put stress on my brake. But let's take off in the air. Let's look around for a second before I take off. So if I just use this button on my yoke, I can just go like this and have a look at the scenery. The airport, it's impeccable. What they've done for this is amazing. It's funny, my wife was laughing at my it's really good, it's amazing, it's incredible what we're looking at, it's just phenomenal, amazing. She was laughing at me because of that. So there it is. And if I want to look at the aircraft externally, so just hit the button on my throttle back here like that, and I've got that mapped. And I've got that mapped to a couple of different views, and my views I can control with my mouse. I can move those views around like this. So there's the Learjet, and I can also use one of my other buttons down here where my thumb is, and I can zoom in, as you can see, or I can zoom back. I can't actually remember what these were for. Maybe I didn't map them yet, but I can do that like this and use my mouse to look around if I want to. So if I were to lower the flaps on this aircraft, they're probably not lowered. Let's have a look and see what the flaps look like. There's the flaps. So the flaps are down. I'm not sure if they're down all the way, but if I hit my flap button here, there we go, the flaps are down. Let's move the flaps all the way up and then go outside and have a look at the flaps as they retract, and there's the flaps going down a notch. Right, so there you go. And on my controller here, my throttle, as you can see, I've put this little mini joystick here for my rudder, and that rudder is also a slave to the steering of the front of the aircraft. So the nose wheel steering, as you can see, that's pretty darn handy when you're taking off to line the aircraft up properly as you're accelerating. So this is a 2-engine aircraft. Not sure what type engines, GE maybe they're flying. Anyway, that's a very beautiful model. You can see the reflections, even when you, if I can get the sun in there. Yeah, there we go. Oh, those lights, they're the headlights of the aircraft. So just a gorgeous model. All the models within this program, our AEROFLY program, are just immaculate. So I was very impressed with it. Again, purchased it from Steam, and I love the frame rates on this. So I have this button slave to go back inside the cockpit. And then, and if I reach over to my throttle, I've got a little button in the front. If I do that, I'm in my seat again, ready to fly, and I can just jog myself over just a bit, so I see most of my instruments. So let's take off. I'm gonna just basically. I do have a trim set for this aircraft as well. So on my yoke, I've got a trim set, so I can pitch the nose up or down with my trim. So let's just give her some thrust here. Bring it up. Configuration. I had my taxi brake on, so I take that off. And you'll see as I steer it, nose wheel steer it, you'll see the aircraft moving. So you steer left a bit, steer right a bit. As you gain speed, you don't want to steer too much. It looks like another aircraft is coming in for a landing. This could be interesting. To make sure I stay either above them or below them. There we go. Is that another aircraft, or is it just a cloud? No, it's another aircraft. So I'm just going to steer it towards and see what I got here. So now I'll pull the landing gear up, and I'll show you what that looks like. We trim the nose down a bit. And we pull that landing gear up. I'll go to the view here. There you go. Now you can see the landing gear. I'm going to go down a bit so you can see it fold in. So I'll hit the landing gear like that, and it's just gorgeous, isn't it? And then as my flaps, pull my flaps up. There we go. And let's get back into the cockpit again. My nose is pretty high right now. So there you go. And as I turn here, you can see the city on the side here, some of the city and the buildings. And I'm telling you, this is a very nice view. This is what you would see. It's Seattle down there. And the frame rates are amazing. I don't know what engine they use to do this, but it's just phenomenal. It's the frame rates are kind of like you'd see in a first-person shooter game. But if you want to fly something, this is what you need to do. You need to get this aircraft simulator first to fly it and maybe go to X-Plane later, or just stick with this one if you want to just jump in and have a quick flight. So what I want to do now is take this same airplane. I'm going to pause this and see if I can select an approach. So let's just pause this, hit the P button like that, and then I'm going to hit escape twice to get out. And I want to go to missions here and challenges, and so I want a Learjet. I want a Learjet 45 sidestep to final. Let's say I go for let me just go back into that Learjet. I want to be back in the Learjet. Looking for my Lear. Looking for my, there's a Baron. I don't think I've got a Lear other than this particular Lear, which I, Lake Tahoe. I probably will screw this up. It looks like it's doing a circuit and then coming down, I think. Hard to say. It's just flying over Lake Tahoe, I think. So I don't want to do that. I would like an approach. So let's go back to recommended flights here and see if I can find an approach with a Learjet. There's a Learjet, that's a tutorial. I don't really want a tutorial, I just want a landing. So the other way to get a landing is this way. So instead of doing this, go back, go location. And if I were to look for Seattle, right? Let me see if I can spell Seattle. There we go. There's Seattle. So I go to that airport, and what I'm going to do is select this bottom airplane here, right? Then it's going to ask me if I want a short or long final into that aircraft, into that runway. So I'll say a long final, and then when I go back here, I'm not sure what my configuration is going to look like, but I'm going to hit start. It'll initialize here, and then I can practice my approaches. See if I can get some stuff here. I don't have real weather on here yet, so there's my approach into Seattle. And I'm looking at my ILS down there, so I just use my mouse here to show you. And my ILS, I need to fly into that runway a little more. So I think I'm off from the runway it wants me to land on, I think. Well, I will land into this runway. So let me just, I'm baking it. My aircraft is going too fast. I need to drop my nose a bit. That's the thing about jumping into one of these simulations. I need to lower my landing gear. Flaps down. Just lowered my landing gear. I got a warning happening here. I'm just going to do a visual. So a VFR landing here. And I'm at 1600. I got to lower my speed a bit. It's complaining at me a lot right now, so this is going to be perhaps a crappy landing. So I'm going to bring my flaps down again. There, my flap should be all the way down right now. And I'll show you on the replay, so which is another great feature. So I'm just trying to hit the button on this and come in nicely. So I'm looking at my speeds 143. Probably need to get this thing down to about 120. That would be nice.
Too low gear. 400.
Yeah, I need to put my gear down.
Minimum. 100.
There, I just lowered my gear. I almost screwed that up.
50, 40, 30, 10.
A little bounce there on the runway. Sorry about that, folks. And a little bit of nose wheel steering. And then I can hit my reverse thrust. And look at my engine controls. And that's about good enough. And now I would taxi over to the terminal. And let me see if I can do that. If I get my map out, so if you hit the M button on your map, and I zoom in on that, if I zoom in, I should be able to see where the taxiways are. Let me see if I can see the taxiways. No, actually you can't see the taxiways. I'm just going to cut across right here, hit my brake, and nose wheel on my way out. I got to get off this runway, a little bit of throttle, and then just nose wheel steer my way out, follow the lines, be a good boy, brakes, 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 and I'm just going to come straight in here without following the lines. And there we go. And I need to slow my throttle down before I get the ground people are pissed off at me. This is probably the wrong terminal, but here I go. And just park in here and just brake that now. And then put on, I'll just lower my view here and you'll see me put on my parking brake. There we go, parking brake's on. And up like that, and then we'll have a look outside. There's the aircraft at the terminal. And obviously they're going to have a problem getting the passengers in that aircraft this way. I think they're going to have to get the stairs out. This is not too good. But look at the actual graphics of this terminal. They're phenomenal. I keep saying it. I keep saying it's really good. It's really great. It's the best. It's great. Yeah, that's great. So let me go back now that I think I've got, yeah, it should do the replay for me. So if I hit the pause button here, and I go back down on the bottom here, you see the replay button. So if I just do this, will it save all of that? Yes, it will. Look at that. So if I go back up here, and you'll see me panicking to get my landing gear down. So let's just hit the replay. I believe I can get rid of the map while I'm doing this. And while you're doing the replay, you can change your views. So I'm there, I can zoom out at the same time. Here I'm coming into the runway like this. And it's a beautiful airport. And if I do this, it said gear up, gear up. So I had a gear problem. It didn't like it. Let's see how nice smooth this landing is. I think I bounced once. Sorry about that, folks. Just a slight bounce and then down again like that. And as you can see, there's the replay and a little bit of rudder work there. And if you get into the cockpit, there's it's beautiful there. There's the reverse thrust. So just putting those reverse thrusts, what are they called? Nacelles on the end of the engine. Is that right? You can correct me if you want. And there we go. I've slowed down enough. Now I'm going to go exit to this, I'm not sure what the number was here, but go directly to the terminal. And you can do other views of this. So you can see there's the aircraft there coming in. And you can imagine if you're flying like a 747 or something and you're landing and you're taxiing to the terminal, it's going to look pretty cool. There's another view. That's a flyby view. And that's from the tail. This is kind of a neat view. So this is the one where it's just going to travel or trace your aircraft as it comes in. And I have no control over rotating around that view or not. As you can see, I got my controller here. And we just get to this here, and I'll back out, and you'll see me coming in here. There it is. This is JD Air coming in for a quick coffee. So that is almost at the end of this simulation. Let me just move this forward a bit and see what happens when it ends. Hit play, and I think it just ends. You end up where you were. Here we go. So I'm where I was when I started the pause. I can jump back into the aircraft here. And let me go back. So that was a landing. It was a successful landing. Every landing that works is good. So that's the navigation. And again, if I want to go from A to B, so if I were to select my origin and I were to select, say, LaGuardia, or LA, I'll go to LAX. Why not? There's LAX. Just select that and select runway for LAX, can be whatever. It's runway 6 right. Is that 6 right? Yeah, I don't want to take off on 6 right. So let's go runway 24 left. Is that right? That seems like an approach runway. Anyway, that's departure. So that's going to get me from Seattle to, yeah, that wasn't good. So LA, we tried it again. Los Angeles. There, origin LAX, runway 6, departure, and I can pick some very close airport here. Let's try San Diego. Just zoom in on San Diego, pick San Diego, and I think if I do that, set as destination, and runway 9 straight in, that's good. And so if I go back, there's my route. I'm going over water here. So I decide to take the shortcut again. When I'm departing, I can pick the various ways of getting there. So there we go. Those are the departure and approach. That's not too bad there. And once I've selected that, pick a different aircraft just for the heck of it. Only because I love the Dash 8s, the Q400 Dash 8s. I'm going to just jump into a Dash 8. And you go back, initialize. And of course, it set me back at the... I need to initialize my flight plan, I think. I think I did something wrong there. So let me get back to my navigation. And I do have LAX as my origin. And I have that set as my flight plan. And is that a new route? I thought it was. Let's go back here. Go to my location and go to LAX. There we go. LAX. So you had to cycle that in your location to where your flight plan started. And now when I go back, I should be on runway whatever, runway 6 or whatever that runway was, at LAX, sitting in a Dash 8. So let's hang on for a second as it's initializing. And I could show you my yoke in another future video, but there I am. And you can see me using my controllers here. So you can see I'm at LAX right now. If I hit my map view, it'll show up in the corner. And you can make your map larger or smaller just by using your wheel here and wheeling out. You can see your whole flight path by doing this. And I can extend my map, see what this does for me. Yeah, I thought that was going to move it, but you can move your map around here too, different positions in the window. And I know you can make the map bigger. If I double click this, it's probably going to make the map bigger. Let me see, if I just double click that. Maybe I gotta click the bottom part. Don't know. Maybe you drag it. Not sure. So you guys can figure that out and let me know. There we go. I'm not sure if this does anything. Yeah. This centers me on the aircraft. It gives me two different views here. So that's the map. So let me close that map for a second. And there's my very beautiful Q400 Dash 8 passenger aircraft, Air Canada Express. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Always on time. So there's the aircraft. And so let's just jump into the aircraft for a second and see what it looks like. There it is. And if I just go down a bit, I can see some of the instrumentation, or I can use my wheel and look down again. I'll leave my parking brake on here. There we go. And I'll put my flaps down for takeoff. I'll leave them at, I think they're at 10 right now. That's good enough. And then I've got control over my engines here and my propellers as well. So, and I don't know if I actually mapped any of my buttons to my propeller control. So there we go. And let me see if there you see how that yoke goes forward and back. Right now I'm just doing a trim on the yoke, and it's trimming beautifully at this aircraft. So, and when I look left and right, what do I get? Now you see how when I look right, it will slide a bit first. And so you're here, then it slides a bit first, so you're straight, and then it turns, which is nice. So there's the aircraft. Even the textures on the seats are beautiful. And if you're looking, I didn't show you up here, so your overhead panels, all of this stuff works. I'm not sure if I can lower this by pressing a button, but all of this works. So you've got ice protection and all kinds of other things here. So What do we got? I got my APU settings, I got my power settings, I got my pumps, DC control. If I got a start card out there, I would know. There's my APU. Start the engine. I think you can baggage aft. So I think you can. There's a fire bottle if I got a fire back there. There's engine 1 and 2 start. What else do I have? I don't know if this actually works, but no, I don't think that works. Just a visual, but all the buttons on this do work. I know they do. So I click to go on, and let's just take off really quick again. So I just take off my parking brake and just accelerate. I know this is a beautiful aircraft. And I got my nose wheel steering. I should adjust that a bit because I keep having to pop it a bit to the right. And here we go. Is that an aircraft coming right towards me? There's other aircraft here, so you really have to watch your air traffic control. I'm going to fly right towards them and see if I can go right through them. And I pull my landing gear up. Well, maybe I'll show you that in a second, but I've got an aircraft, I think, coming right in. Or did he just take off? Either way. So here I've got my nav setting here, so I'm just following this. And there's the aircraft coming right down below me. And I'm going to flip to a different view so I can see this happening. And see if I can see that aircraft go. Oh, there he goes. He went right below me. And I'm not sure if I can put on my autopilot right now. The settings should be there, but I can trim down a bit. See if I can throw my autopilot on. And then put it on nav. It should do. So there's my autopilot engaged. And I just take my hands off. There's my hands. They're off. Hands are off the wheel. And that should get me right to the destination airport. So I can go downstairs, have a coffee, relax, not do anything, time it, and use my iPhone, my Apple Ultra phone, and set a timer and see when I'm going to get close to my destination with my autopilot on. Now let's see if the autopilot actually does the turn for me here. I'm just going to wait for this. I'm going to hop up in my seat a bit to have a look. There we go. And let's see if that does a turn for me as I'm flying here. So looking at my airspeed, I got 193, I think, so that's not too bad. And is it going to turn for me? Come on, don't make a liar out of me. So it's going to cross first probably and then turn. Come on. Come on. That's making a liar out of me. I think I got to hit nav. There we go. So I just hit the nav button down here. And so now it's going to track. It's going to follow that flight plan route that I put in there. So I forgot to hit nav on my autopilot, and it doesn't like that. There we go. Now it'll try to cross that, and I should have the right. I'll be navigating right, but I'd want to make sure that the altitude is the right altitude as well. So I can wheel my altitude to the right altitude later on. So let's have a look. I'm going to put my landing gear up and down just so you can see it. So we're going to look outside for a second and just look underneath the aircraft. And there it is there. And let's just put the landing gear down. And here they come. Now that's beautiful modeling of that landing gear. So let's do a close-up on the landing gear as much as we can. There it is there. Let me just retract the landing gear so you can see what that looks like. And there we go. And all the wheels and everything turn on this aircraft. And the aircraft has got a bit of a texture on it. Not sure if Air Canada did that on purpose, but depending on the model you get, some models may be even more complex. But look at that frame rate, folks. I'm just wheeling around here, and I've got a 8-core 8350 AMD processor and a 480 graphics card from way back. So there's Seattle, or was that LA? That was LA. So that's LAX. So I know the Los Angeles Police Department has a whole whack of helicopters on their roof, so I should go to LA Police Department and see if I can find that roof. I've been on that roof, I haven't flown off of it, but I've been on that roof and it's friggin' cool. So that's the external part of the aircraft. Let me just bring those flaps up, and again, that's on my yoke. I just notch those up. You can see them coming in. It's retracting the flaps all the way. There we go. And jump back in the aircraft. So there we go. So that, and if I pause this again, pause the flight, just go to the right window here, pause the flight. So that's paused. And let me just roll that playback, and you'll be impressed with the playback. So I'm going to just start right when I'm just about to take off. And then once you hit playback, you can go into your controls. I've got this button here set for different views. So I can cycle the view here. I can go back like that, and I can watch my takeoff. So there we go. So you can go from the front, or you can go from the side like that. And again, the frame rates are phenomenal on this AEROFLY product, AEROFLY 4. AEROFLY 2 was excellent. I bought it off of Steam. I just went through another aircraft or beside another aircraft. That's not good. I bought it off of Steam, AEROFLY 2, and I thought maybe it'll run 4. I looked at the minimum requirements and it said 4-core processor. I was like, I got an 8-core. There's a nice golf course there. Looks like an 18-holer. Probably shoot a 76 on that. So there we go. Frame rates are pretty good here. And I don't have it set to Ultra right now. If I had a faster processor, which will come in a couple of months probably, this thing could be set to Ultra. This is comparable to flying X-plane. And I think from a procedures perspective within the aircraft, you're getting everything you need. I didn't do a cold start, because you can actually do a cold start on these aircraft. You can take it right from the gate with a cold start and a pushback, and go right to the right runway. So I don't believe it's got interactive ATC, so it's good for procedural flying, but not good for your communication ATC. So there we go there, and I believe I set the autopilot around now. There's the aircraft, and let's just show the little rudder. A little bit of a rudder movement. No, it's not doing it because it's following this. So the aircraft itself is flying the replay, but the views you can sit in anywhere. So I can sit in here. I don't believe I can play with the, no, I can't touch this because it's in replay mode. So let me get that out of replay mode. So you hit pause again, and I'm out of replay mode, and I'm flying my track. Is my autopilot still on? Yeah. So there we go. So that's it. So I'm JD. Thanks for watching my channel. That's kind of a rundown of the program. AEROFLY 4. It's just an amazing experience. I gotta stop saying incredible, amazing. I don't think it likes what I'm doing right now. Anyway, it's a great experience. It's a beautiful simulator. Let's do a flyby here. And there you go. And so we'll end it here. Thanks for watching my channel. This is unusual for me. Usually I'm doing watchmaking and watchmaking stuff or music, but I do love flying sims. So there we go. So that's a gorgeous simulator. And I'm just going to stop it right here.